All right. Jeff. All right. Good morning. Buenos dias. My name is Nora Vargas. I'm the chair of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors, and I'm glad to be here with all of you this morning. We're here in the County Office of Emergency Services to provide an update on the response and assessment efforts after historic events after Tropical Cyclone Hillary. I want to start off by saying that when I was growing up, my grandma used to always say, "Más vale prevenir que lamentar." And so for those of you that may not understand Spanish, it means it's better to prevent than later on, be really concerned about what you could have done, the coulda, shoulda, woulda. And I think that the way we worked together in the last 10 days, particularly in the last 2 days, I think really reflects who we are as a community and who we are as a county. And so I'm really proud to stand here today with our community and say that I'm really grateful for the rapid regional response that we had. Really thankful for our regional partners for their monumental efforts to be ready for whatever the storm had in store for all of us. And I think it's fantastic that we're able to cooperate and coordinate in our region in the way that we've had. I'm grateful for our mayor and my good friend, Mayor Todd Gloria, and his team, our law enforcement and first responders that are here with us today, all of them for the county and throughout the 18 cities, as well as SCG&E and the American Red Cross for standing up for shelters, particularly Southwestern College and San Marcos and some of the other nonprofits and volunteer organizations really went above and beyond. And so just a couple of updates. The county, for those of you that I think we mentioned this, but I want to make sure to emphasize, the county was fully staffed during the storm, both here and in the Emergency Operations Center and across the county, working with cities and first responders. San Diego Gas and Electric and nonprofits like the American Cross have already taken action. The county and cities increased staff for emergency responses and made sure our needs of storage rooms were clear. And the County of San Diego, I think as all of you know, we were able to proclaim a local emergency so that we can anticipate any of the resources and assistance that we may need across from the state and federal government. And of course, the governor's support is extremely important. So county and city staff are now working together to make sure that we gather information on any of the damages and report back to the state and federal government. You'll hear in a little bit more about that, but we were able to increase and implement our weather program as well as capacity to shelter those in the county's unincorporated areas who are experiencing homelessness. And so, but I want to make sure we emphasize how important it is that the public also did their part. So grateful for every one of you who were able to stay home, who continue to stay informed, and who made sure that what could have been something really detrimental really turned out as best as it could because of all of you being prepared. You helped all of us and you helped our residents stay safe, and we're very grateful for you. There's more detail coming, but I want to make sure I share that more than 50,000 people actually signed up for our notifications from Alert San Diego. I really want to encourage folks to continue to stay, sign up if you haven't so that you can stay alert to what's happening and any of the warnings, et cetera. There were about 33,000 new users who downloaded the county's emergency application. And I also want to share that our partners at 211 helped answer about 9,000 calls from Friday through Sunday about what to do and how to prepare as we're moving forward. So if anything that we learned from here is that County of San Diego, the City of San Diego, we are prepared and we're ready to take on some of the biggest challenges our communities face, and we do that together. Así que estamos aquí en comunicación con la Oficina de Servicios de Emergencia del Condado, pues para ofrecerles una actualización sobre lo que ha estado pasando, los esfuerzos de respuesta para evaluar los daños después del evento meteorológico histórico, el ciclón de Hillary, ¿verdad? Quiero comentar y agradecidos con el público por haber hecho su parte para que las comunidades estén seguras. Estoy muy agradecida con el condado, ya que estuvieron trabajando casi 24 horas los últimos días nuestros compañeros para estar seguros que las personas estuvieran sanas y salvos. Estamos muy agradecidos con el condado, no solamente con nuestro equipo del condado, pero con la ciudad de San Diego, SDG&E y organizaciones de fines de lucro que nos ayudaron para enfocarse a intervenir en cualquier problema que existiera. El condado de San Diego, como ustedes saben, proclamó una emergencia La emergencia se proclamó porque es necesario para poder estar seguros de que si ocupamos los recursos del Estado o del gobierno federal se puedan traer. Vamos a proveer más información por el momento, pero quiero dar las gracias al alcalde Todd Gloria y a la Oficina de Servicios de Emergencias de nuestro equipo, a Jeff, a Tony, por todo el trabajo que han hecho y por los detalles que van a proveer. Así que con eso le doy la palabra al alcalde y vamos a tener la oportunidad de responder a sus preguntas en un minuto. But with that, I'd like to introduce my good friend and partner, Mayor Todd Gloria.
Thank you, Chair Vargas. Appreciate the strong partnership with the County of San Diego, the city and county working together to successfully navigate the storm that we just experienced. I want to start my comments by acknowledging that we have a number of our city leaders joining me this morning. They're available to answer the questions you may have. You'll be hearing shortly from Eric Dargan, our city's Chief Operating Officer. We also have with us our Deputy Chief Operating Officers, Christina Peralta and Chris McFadden, Chris Heiser, who's the Executive Director of our city's Offices of Emergency Services, as well as Police Chief David Nislight, Lifeguard Chief James Gartland, and Fire Rescue Chief Colin Stoll. Last, certainly not least, our Transportation Director, Bethany Bezak. Her and her team have been all over the city dealing with downed trees and other storm aftermath. Again, all available to answer any questions you may have. I want to again express my appreciation and thanks to our city and county teams for their efforts and preparations over the last several days. Because of their hard work, the worst that we feared never came to pass. Tropical Storm Hillary was a very significant event that still caused damage and flooding, but our crews were positioned well in advance to respond effectively and very quickly. When we learned that San Diego would be hard hit by an unprecedented storm, we made sure that we best positioned both our personnel and our assets to avoid catastrophic loss of life and property. This entailed making sure that our drainage systems were in good working order to minimize flooding, communicating with the public on what they should do during this time, and importantly, making shelter available for our unhoused population. I want to give particular appreciation to the city's Homelessness Strategies and Solutions Department, the city's Housing Commission, and our homeless service providers, folks like Living Waters Church, Father Joe's Villages of San Diego, the San Diego Rescue Mission, and PATH. These folks all working together to literally around the clock to make sure our unsheltered population were safe. We proactively relocated residents from the 20th and B safe sleeping site in Golden Hill in less than 24 hours. Making sure that all those people could be safe and dry during this event. That was not easy to do, but all those folks I just mentioned working together to make sure that got done, and it did. We conducted extensive outreach to get people experiencing homelessness into, particularly in places like our riverbeds, into shelter. Outreach teams worked overtime Friday through Sunday afternoon. Unfortunately, not all responded to those offers of help and assistance, and that's why our swiftwater rescue teams were out last night saving 13 people who were stranded on a section of high ground near the edge of the riverbanks in Mission Valley. We opened multiple inclement weather shelters in our city where 119 unsheltered San Diegans and 11 local families spent the night. These shelters will remain open tonight as well. We had a utilization rate of our inclement weather shelter system of about 72%. That's unfortunate. We obviously want every bed utilized that's made available. Hopefully we'll do better tonight. This speaks to the challenge I think that we have when it comes to ending homelessness as an issue writ large. Even when a hurricane is amongst us, it can be difficult to get folks to accept offers of shelter. I want to just transition now that Hillary has passed. We turn our attention to recovery. I think Mr. Dargan will get to some of those issues, but I want to acknowledge that there are still some residents in our county that are without power. I will tell you that I know SDG&E has been working extremely hard over multiple days to make sure that those outages are brief as possible. I want to thank SDG&E for their partnership in providing communication, data, forecasts, things that have really accrued to our benefit in making sure that we could prepare and respond effectively. Our city crews are now out working to clear roads from flooding, down trees, and other debris. And I want to express my heartfelt appreciation to our city crews who worked around the clock tirelessly to make sure that we were safe during Tropical Storm Hillary. I'm enormously grateful to Chris Heiser for his leadership. He was at the Emergency Operations Center all weekend, working extremely hard with a team of professionals. I also want to thank our Chief Operating Officer, Eric Dargan. He is the leader of our city's operation side of the house. He also and his team did exceptional work. Of course, appreciation as well to our first responders, our police officers, our firefighters, our lifeguards, our paramedics. All of them had to respond to a higher level of calls than they normally would. They did it without complaining. They did it extremely well, and they have my appreciation. I want to just note in closing, many of the challenges that we faced as a city because of Hillary were quite frankly challenges we face every single day. The poor state of our infrastructure is something that my administration has tried to prioritize since I took office. We have made critical investments in systems like pump repair stations, other drainage improvements, stormwater improvements. What I want to say clearly to the public is that we obviously need to do even more to address both the stormwater improvements that are needed across the city, as well as public safety facilities and equipment needs. This incident absolutely underscores that particular need. The need to invest more in public infrastructure reinforces my commitment to making sure that we're funding San Diegans' life, that we're keeping San Diegans' life and property safe during severe weather caused by a changing climate in the coming years. That said, most of all, I want to conclude with this. My appreciation and thanks to the people of San Diego. When we asked you all to stay home and take particular precautions, you responded. And by doing so, what you managed to do was to reduce the need for emergency services, allow our first responders and city crews to do their jobs, the jobs that they've done extremely well. I am deeply appreciative of the people of San Diego for heeding these calls, responding by staying home. It made yesterday's operations a lot easier to manage, and that allowed us to get through this incident extremely successfully. I also want to thank Governor Gavin Newsom, who personally came to San Diego to show his support and concern for our community. His willingness to declare a declaration of emergency will be helpful to San Diego as we respond in the days ahead and making sure that we cover the costs and expenses that we've incurred over the last number of days. A reminder that the City Council will be meeting at 3 p.m. this afternoon to ratify the declaration of emergency that I issued yesterday. So once again, a huge gratitude to our first responders, our city crews, and every San Diegan who did their part to help us weather this storm safely. And with that, I want to turn the podium over to the county's Director of Emergency Services, Jeff Toney. Jeff?
Thank you, Mayor Gloria. It's been a busy week. We started out with the Coyote Fire in East County and ended up with Tropical Storm Hillary a few days later. Although the brunt of the storm has passed, today we focus on assessing damages to our roads and critical infrastructure. And these damage assessments will continue over the next several days. We aren't typically used to responding to tropical storms here in San Diego County. Hillary brought us high winds and heavy rain across the entire San Diego region. We saw a huge demand for sandbags. More than 100,000 sandbags were distributed countywide. The demand was so great, we asked the Governor's Office of Emergency Services for an additional 100,000 that they delivered on Sunday. Peak power outages were about 15,000 and most were restored quickly. Great work to SDG&E. There's a handful left and they're getting to those right now. We worked very closely with the Red Cross to open 2 regional shelters for those that needed it. One in San Marcos and one in Chula Vista, open for families and pets. I'd like to thank all of our partner agencies for their coordination and work to help keep the public safe. It was truly a whole community response. As the chairwoman said, nearly 50,000 registered for Alert San Diego, and that's our region's mass notification system. That's fantastic. We are also fortunate to live here in San Diego with beautiful beaches, valleys, mountains, and deserts. But with the beauty comes the risk for disasters. So please, I encourage the public, continue to visit alertsandiego.org to be ready for the next one, and there will be. Thank you, and now I'd like to turn it over to the City of San Diego's Chief Operating Officer, Eric Dargan.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. First of all, let me say to the mayor, there's a myth that I brought hurricane to San Diego, and that's not true. So I just want to make sure I get the record straight. That's not the case. But I also like to thank the public for adhering to what the mayor put out for us, staying indoors and hunkering down, as we would say, because we've never lost anyone who stayed in, and that's that's great all by itself, the fact that we can stand here proudly and say that we did not lose anyone to a hurricane or a tropical storm. We prayed for the worst case. We prayed for the best case. We prepared for the worst case. And preparation is what we did. Our teams have been working around the clock, responding to areas of flooding and downed trees across the city of San Diego, and I'm thankful that we did not receive any major catastrophe, no major damage to our facilities. The mayor also said that our facilities are in major need of repair, and this storm could have exploited that, but I'm thankful that it did not. As the mayor also mentioned, on Saturday, we relocated residents from our 20th and B safe sleeping site to the second floor of Golden Hall. The city will evaluate the status of 20th and B, and we will move those individuals back to 20th and B as soon as possible. I also want to thank PATH and the Downtown Partnership for assisting in outreach and providing vehicles for relocation. We could not have done that without them. Also, the partner of Dreams for Change in helping in their transition to Golden Hall. Once again, this was a collaborative effort. From our roadways, there's plenty of areas that many of you saw down trees and flooded streets. Also along Pacific Highway, our teams responded with pumps that removed the water. Additionally, river crossings in the Mission Valley area were closed yesterday, and we will reopen those roads as soon as we determine that it's safe to cross. In addition, our crews from transportation and stormwater departments are getting reports of streetlight outages. We had 147 reports of fallen trees and tree limbs, 7 traffic signs down, and 18 calls for street traffic signal outages. These are all being addressed immediately. One sinkhole in the Miramar area at Dowdy Drive was responded to and is also being addressed. This is a symptom of our failed stormwater system. And again, that's something that we will have to address. We want to remind all San Diegans that potholes will happen after a rain. So please report it through Get It Done, and we will respond and get that taken care of as soon as possible also. For the reservoirs, as you may have heard, we did release water from 3 of our reservoirs, Barrick, El Capitan, and Hodges. There were no issues to report, and we continue to monitor these reservoirs levels at all times. Also today, Monday, we did deploy troops for trash pickup, and for those that did hold their trash cans back last night and put them out first thing this morning, I say thank you. We prevented hopefully major littering throughout the city, but trash collection did take place. Once again, I also like to want to thank our emergency management partners, the county OEM, as well as SDG&E. We appreciate everyone for helping and following the guidelines of city crews and officials. Again, I give much praise to all the city employees who had direct input, frontline productions in making sure that the city of San Diego was prepared, but most of all, making sure the residents were safe. Again, I thank you for your service.
Thank you again. Thank you, Eric, Jeff, and thank you, everyone, each one of our partners for their cooperation to provide services to protect all San Diegans. We are at our best when we work together, and this demonstrated who we are as a region. Así que con eso, muchísimas gracias a todos por acompañarnos. We can answer any questions at this time. Yes, ma'am.
Are you worried that the city may have over-prepared for this emergency? A lot of people maybe have that syndrome. The boy who cried wolf may be worried that in the future they won't respond so proactively because they won't believe that it's a big deal.
I mean, I can speak for the county. We are always prepared, and I think the reason why we are where we're at right now and what we saw is because we ensured that information got out. The fact that so many people signed up for our website and downloaded the application is because people wanted to know the information. And so I believe that the more information, the more that we communicate with folks, the more we provide what can happen and be as factual as we can. We were following science and ensuring that people saw that firsthand is all we can do. And what I ask of our communities and the people of San Diego is to know that you have a team here that is making decisions based on science, based on clear information that's coming here, minute by minute, and that is what we did. We provided that information. So I think people know that we had their best interest at heart.
Do you know, we know what happened yesterday in Mission Valley, but do you know how many people were rescued in the county?
I don't know exactly. Jeff, do you have any data on
The
that?
city you want to talk about?
As far as swiftwater rescue, yesterday evening, 13 folks were rescued from the Marina District, and it was due to moving water, swiftwater rescue.
That's the only ones that you have to agree.
That was it for swiftwater rescue. Yeah, 2 people needed medical attention, but they were released at scene.
Mr. Carmen, do you have anything to say as far as people getting into the water at the beaches over the next couple of days, testing for bacteria and all that?
Yeah, so there'll be a general rain advisory, and then the county will be doing testing. I can't speak for the county, but they'll do testing, and their notification and advisories will be out there. So go into the websites, and it'll tell you where you should and should not enter, but there should be a general rain advisory for the next 72 hours.
And do you know at this point how many streets remain closed?
I cannot speak to how many streets are closed.
We may. Bethany Bezak, who's our Director of Transportation, can answer that for you.
Yes, at this time, we have 2 current road closures. That's Pacific Highway at Barnett. That's adjacent to one of our stormwater pump stations. And then also at Mission Gorge Place, our stormwater system was overwhelmed at that location, so it's currently closed. And our city teams are working very closely to get that open as soon as possible.
Yes.
If we hadn't strategically placed crews where we placed them, would we likely have seen more roads getting flooded? And if people hadn't stayed off the roads, we likely would have seen more accidents, I'm guessing. So you guys kind of alluded to the fact that, everyone listened to your warnings. But I guess, how much did the preparation help in minimizing the destruction?
I think it's important to share, and I think, I have the mayor also share some comments. I think it's important to share that this is not something that happened in the last 2 days. This is the work that's been happening first of all, our county and city work well together, and we have been, for years now since we've all been here. And but particularly, I think in the last 10 days, monitoring and working closely with, for instance, SDG&E, right? I mean, I think Carolyn Wynn mentioned yesterday there were some folks who were on the roads hitting, some of their electricity poles, et cetera, et cetera. So us coming out here and letting folks know that it was important for them to stay home, stay informed, staying safe was a priority, I think really made a difference for all of us, because I think as San Diegans, it is important to make sure that we, especially during the rain, that we stay home as much as we can during something like this. But
I would add, and it would just connect back to Chilton's question. The short answer to your question before is no. What we did absolutely prevented additional damage in the community. So, Priya, to your question, unlike other natural disasters that we often face in San Diego, wildfires and earthquakes, as the chairwoman was explaining, we had multiple days' notice, and we took advantage of that time to take swift action. What you saw were city crews going across the city to make sure that storm drains were cleared, that pumping stations were in good working order. And as you've heard, we have one that is impacted in the Grantville Mission Valley area, but the ability to say that none of the rest of them were similarly impacted is not happenstance. That is the result of hard work by city employees utilizing that advanced notification to make sure that we minimize the risk to the general public. What does that mean? That means fewer properties being flooded, the loss of valuables and other associated things that would come from that. You often aren't given credit for bad stuff that doesn't happen. In this particular case, what we saw was both government and the community working together to minimize the impacts to our surrounding community. And many appreciation and thanks to property owners all across the city. We asked folks to go out, clear their gutters, make sure that water had places to go. I believe people heard that call, and their effort with our effort made us be able to stand here today happy with the outcome and saying that this response was successful.
Do you feel like the results was better than what was expected going in?
Well, I'll certainly defer to Chief Heiser and some of the other folks who can maybe speak to that, but I will tell you that we were looking at models earlier in the week that suggested this could have been very different. Now, Mother Nature had a big hand in that, in terms of the path that Hillary ultimately ended up taking. But the fact of the matter is that we have incredible professionals in this county, both the city and the county of San Diego, who know how to do their work exceptionally well. And what our jobs were, Chair Vargas and I, are to make sure that we empower those individuals to do their job. They did it, and we're standing here today saying that we had no loss of life and relatively minor impacts to property. And where those exist, the down trees that Bethany were mentioning, we're getting to them now. I think there was a world a couple of days ago, I didn't know we could pick up the garbage today, but we are. And so oftentimes things in local government ain't that sexy, right? Picking up the garbage isn't something you necessarily herald as being successful, but recognizing that we were looking at a hurricane just a few days ago, and here we are saying we'll open schools tomorrow, the power will be on for everybody here shortly, and the garbage is getting picked up. I think that's a good day in local government.
And it sounds like some people think that this was like overhyped by you guys, but you were just alluding to that. It was forecasted to be maybe a little bit worse. When you guys are forecasting these things, like how do you square public safety versus like the public's expectations?
I'd love to talk. I have a professional here that talks about this. Chris Heiser, can I maybe tap you in, sir? But as he comes forward, I'll just simply say it is a balance of making sure that we're informing the public without alarming them. And I believe that's what we did here successfully, in large part thanks to the leadership of Chris Heiser. So, Chris, you might say a few things?
So I always start by saying, this is what I envision today. This is what I hope for, but hope's not a plan. So first, the reason we were successful is who I'm looking at is the media. That involvement to take this, and I said this starting Thursday when I was asked the question, take this storm seriously. The National Weather Service predicted 50-mile-an-hour winds and 3+ inches of rain. I don't control the weather. No one does. But you have to make decisions based on, as has been expressed, science and the best information you have at the time. It's easier to back down from something than to spool up for something. So we had the opportunity, because of the focus that was put on this, the unique title that was applied to it, and the time we had to prepare, so that at every level throughout this county and outside of this county, individuals like me, emergency managers at the county level and in every city in this county, had an opportunity to look at what happened during the last storms this winter, what were our areas of vulnerability, and take action before it occurred. I will stand categorically, no regrets about what we did. I greatly appreciate the support we got from the county and the state when our requests were being made, and feel that it helped support everything we were doing. But the other group, it's a two-party event, is the public. And I understand the question. The question's reasonable. We told you this was going to happen, and it didn't. Prevention's the hardest thing to quantify and explain. But it's prevention that occurred. It's the fact that the pumps were serviced. It doesn't sound significant, but if that pump isn't managed, serviced, and maintained, the water's not going to be moved away from where it shouldn't be. And so right from the start, cities, our city and other cities in the county, took a proactive approach to this. Take it seriously. We took it seriously up until, and even when I was driving home last night at 7:30 and thought maybe I closed my EOC too early because I was kind of skidding on the street. But we took it seriously throughout this entire storm. We never let up on the perception that at any minute that storm could turn. And the public's expectation is that we be positioned to manage it. And the support I got from the county, from the state, from within my own city, a complete willingness to shift all resources to make sure that the public's safe. We brought in a homeless strategies person directly into our EOC, so I had real-time information about that community. I had an access and functional needs representative in there. These are the parts of our community that require our focus and support. I had instant access to the County of San Diego, and we're part of a mutual aid response, not just in fire, but in everything we do, so that I could have references for what resources I needed. So that's the long answer to, it was a two-party event that resulted in success. It was everyone that's standing up here that said, take this seriously and supported what we're doing, and the public that was willing to accept what we're saying and stayed home when we asked. So I thank both the public, and who learned about that is the media that pushed it out. So I respect and appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. With that, the last thing I want to make sure I emphasize, it's important to note, and our Office of Emergency Services was in direct contact with all 18 cities in the unincorporated area. So this was a massive, I don't want to make light of it because I know we're talking about it right now as, things are good. But it is good because, as it has been mentioned, 18 cities were extremely engaged in this process. The school districts, our tribes, we made sure that our unincorporated areas were safe. In the end, all we wanted to make sure was that public safety was our priority. And so grateful that people stayed home, grateful that people made sure that they followed directions, and thankful for all of you for making sure that you disseminated the information. We'll continue to keep you updated on any activities that take place. But for that, we appreciate you being here. Thank you.
I want to say hi. I'm Jeff. How you doing?